When Game of Thrones ended, it didn't just leave us with an incomplete story, it left us with a void. A massive fantasy shaped void that networks and streaming services have been desperately trying to fill for the last few years. And they've tried. They've tried so many different ways. Netflix threw The Witcher at us, Amazon threw Wheel of Time and the Rings of Power at us. But here's the thing, knowing that you want to find the next Game of Thrones and actually finding it are two completely different things. So today, we're going to talk about which adaptations stepped up to the plate, which ones completely failed, and why Apple TV's upcoming Cosmere project might finally be the answer that everyone's been looking for. Okay, so let's get started with Netflix and The Witcher, which, when this first came out, it was fantastic. It was perfect. It was gritty. It was a wonderful story. It had complex characters. Henry Cavill was killing it as Geralt of Rivia. And then Netflix just, had to just ruin it for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking. They just killed it for no reason. I mean, they had the star, they had the product, it was going perfect, and then next up you have Amazon Prime tried to do Wheel of Time, and there's been so many people that have talked about how Amazon failed in their attempt to adapt Wheel of Time. And Wheel of Time is not perfect. I am currently in Gathering Storm, which is book 12 of book 14, and this book is phenomenal. But this series does have its ups and downs. It's not as consistent and clear cut as A Song of Ice and Fire. I still much prefer A Song of Ice and Fire to Wheel of Time, but there are aspects of Wheel of Time that I really enjoy more so than A Song of Ice and Fire. That being said, Amazon just did a poor job. They did not respect the source material. They did not do this well. And it was just sort of frustrating. So then after that, Amazon thought, hey, well, why don't we just go and try to make a different fantasy series and we'll base it off of Lord of the Rings. Instead of respecting all of the history and all of the lore that J.R.R. Tolkien built in the Silmarillion and all of his secret histories and so on and so forth, they were like, let's just make something up and just have it not be in line with Lord of the Rings. I don't know how they thought that that was going to perform well, but they threw a whole bunch of money at it. Someone believed in it. So what's the pattern here? The pattern that I'm seeing is that everyone saw all of the success that Game of Thrones had, and they're just trying to emulate it. They're trying to go and they're trying to figure out how can they make as much money as HBO did and really just use a good story in order to go after it. And, now Apple TV is going to do a Cosmere adaptation. They're going to start with a Mistborn movie and Stormlight TV show, and that might be great, especially because Brandon Sanderson is so involved in it, so that might be great. But I don't think that that's what people are looking for. I don't think that that's going to be the next Game of Thrones. And the next Game of Thrones, actually, I think it's right here, Lonesome Dove. And I know it's not a fantasy, it's a Western. I get it. It's completely different. But is it? Because Lonesome Dove has very complex characters, just like a Game of Thrones. It is an epic. It's an epic Western instead of an epic fantasy. But in both of them, the characters are dealing with complex moral issues. And you get some heroicism that rises out of the tragedies that are present in these worlds. They were written at similar times, and in Lonesome Dove you get to watch Gus and Call deal with a lot of the different things that they did. There's a lot of moral complexity within the Western frontier, and I thought that these were actually fairly similar despite the fact that this is a fantasy and this is a Western. And I actually think that this would be the best introduction to Westerns for fantasy fans because it has some of that similarity. It has all of the different complex characters. It has, you're building the world as you're going through it. There is so much in here that fantasy fans will enjoy. More so than some of the stereotypical Westerns, which you could sort of equate to stereotypical fantasies that are just the hero's journey over and over and over again, rinse and repeat. So if you love a Game of Thrones and you're looking for your next story, it might not be The Witcher. It might not be Rings of Power. It might not be Wheel of Time, but it might be Lonesome Dove. And there are 4 books in this series. It is a completed series. I finished Lonesome Dove and it was amazing. I am in the middle of Streets of Laredo and I'm really enjoying this. It is not, I don't think it's on the same caliber as Lonesome Dove, but it's still great. It follows different characters. Don't want to give anything away because there are big spoilers. If I tell almost anything about this book, there are big spoilers for Lonesome Dove, and I don't want to do that. But I would definitely recommend Lonesome Dove, Streets of Laredo, and then there's 2 prequels that I will read after I finish Streets of Laredo because Larry McMurtry is amazing. So with that, if you liked Game of Thrones, check out Lonesome Dove and Streets of Laredo.